all who are able, please stand? God of mercy and grace, source of all wisdom, we thank you today for this convocation, and we humbly ask your blessing on our time together here. We thank you for those who have gone before us as the founders and leaders of Aurora University. Please help us to follow in their footsteps and learn from their example. We lift up Dr. Sherrick to you and ask that you bless her in her many duties as our president. We are grateful for the class of 1965 and their contributions to their communities, nation, and world. We ask your blessing to be upon their homecoming celebration this weekend. We thank you also for those whom we recognize for their years of service to this institution. We ask that you continue to guide and direct them in their work on behalf of our students. We ask that you hear our prayers today, and we ask them in your holy name. Amen. Please be seated.
Welcome to our 2015 Founders Day celebration. This is the moment when we gather and remember that in 1893, on a very, very cold and blustery January morning, Mendota Seminary was founded. The seminary was known initially across the land for its extremely good faculty-student ratio, 5 to 3. 5 faculty, 3 students. Of course, the story goes on, and eventually the tiny seminary moves to Aurora. I love those pictures of the parade through town, the arrival at the campus, the belief that the campus was located in such a remote western setting that nothing would ever grow up around it. Tell that to those who look for parking. But today is a chance to celebrate our very thriving university, and also the beginning of homecoming weekend. This is a time each fall when we pause and we welcome back friends, graduates of the university or the college, friends who come back and remind us that it is in fact possible to go home again, and that though home may change, it always holds a very special place in our hearts. This is an exciting weekend in many ways. In many ways, one of the reasons is because we'll dedicate a new building, which reminds me that we need to hurry up for next year. We've had the good fortune of dedicating a number of new buildings on homecoming weekend the last few years. This is a very special building. It's a building that is in so many ways symbolic of our university. In fact, that's why these tapestries are on the stage today. Usually you see something about the core values or the mission statement, but today we decided to do something different. And they will be following us around this weekend. I suspect they will appear again and again this year. So why tapestries? Well, in many ways, the new Hill Welcome Center and Shingothi Center is about the stories of Aurora College and Aurora University scattered throughout the new building are memorials to people who came before, people who gave the university its very distinctive personality. And we celebrate those lives and those stories and those traits tomorrow when we dedicate the new building. I've come to think of those stories as creating a rich tapestry. Periodically, an idea comes to me, and I find myself reading about it and studying it. And you know that I've long been fascinated by storytelling, particularly the stories we tell about ourselves. How do we shape our identity when we tell a story about ourselves? And regardless of whether it is fact or fiction, it usually is some form of truth as we have come to see it about ourselves. Over the last few years, we've learned a lot about the story of George Williams College, the story of Aurora College. Now we write chapters together in the story of Aurora University. Well, stories are wonderful. They're made up of words and ideas and personalities. But I've been thinking lately quite a lot about tapestries. Tapestries, why tapestries? Well, as a historian, you know, as I know, that some of the most important stories in human history have indeed been recorded in tapestries. I'm looking forward later this fall to seeing the Bayeux Tapestry, which tells a remarkable story. I'm looking forward to seeing again those magical unicorn tapestries in Paris, those deep, deep colors, and the remarkable art that it took to literally weave a story into a piece of cloth. I'm really in awe of the people who did that. They did it often under amazingly difficult circumstances. Whole families were engaged in the process of tapestry making, and it was not unusual for young children to have something to do. So think of a family in a fairly confined setting, a small little medieval house where many people were living and all were engaged in the work of preparing the fabric, of dyeing various parts of the fabric, and then that really taxing work of weaving a story into life. Tapestries are remarkable works of art, and they, of course, were especially popular because you could take them with you. The nice thing about a tapestry is it both kept your castle warm and could accompany as you moved to your next castle. And so tapestries were a mark of one's place in society, one's importance, as well as serving a very useful purpose. I've come to think of our university as a tapestry. I think of Aurora University as a very rich and vibrant creation, a work of art, really, where each thread is special, distinctive. But when that thread is combined with all the others, what happens is magical. A story unfolds. And so the pieces of cloth hanging behind us are here just to encourage us to think of one another over this homecoming weekend in this very special way, as works of art, as people who, drawn together in a single place, become glorious, as people whose lives are touched, if they're willing, by divinity, by people who are transformed through learning. Aurora University is a remarkably rich, dramatic, vibrant, warm, colorful, miraculous fabric. And so I'm pleased to begin this Founders Convocation together and to welcome everyone to our 2015 homecoming celebration. Always on these occasions, we invite a member of our Board of Trustees to join us. And this year, I'm especially happy to introduce the man who's been board chair since 2011. Ron Hem has presided as chair over an amazing era in the growth of our university. Think about all the things that are here today that were not here in 2011. The buildings that have been changed, the buildings that have been opened, the faculty that has been increased dramatically in size, the students, and now we embarked on a new journey, a journey to fulfill our athletic promises to students. If you saw the front of the beacon, you know that indeed Aurora University has purchased the first parcel of land that will be crucial to development of our new athletic complex, and in fact would be sufficient for our new complex if that's all we buy. But we might want to buy a little more to have a little extra growing room. After all, we've acquired as much land as possible around here, and we're still growing, so you never know. We might need a little more. Ron has presided over a transformation, really, at Aurora University. For me, he has been a very good friend. And you don't always get to say that about your boss, but I've been able to say that about all three of mine. Frank Voris, Cal Myers, Ron Hamm, all people who care deeply about AU. They have been a source of incredible wisdom and kindness to me. And so, Ron, I know this may be your last convocation as board chair. We'd like to make it a little special. Will you all please rise and join me in thanking Ron for his service?
Thank you, Dr. Sherrick, and many thanks to all of you. I'm especially pleased today to greet members of the class of 1965 who are here to celebrate their golden reunion. As a lifelong resident of the Fox River Valley, I have watched AU grow and prosper in response to the educational needs of families throughout our community. Now, from my vantage point as a trustee, I share with my colleagues a commitment to the continuous advancement of the university's mission over time. Like all of you, we believe that learning has the power to change lives, even societies, for the better. And so on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I am honored to bring you greetings today. Thank you.
As the chorale sang, I couldn't help but think of Syria or the Ukraine. We do indeed live in a homeland that is easy to take for granted, a place where learning is accessible, where people have an opportunity to be the first in their families to earn a degree. The choir reminds us that we have to repeatedly renew this kind of a homeland and restore its soul. This afternoon, we welcome back to campus a record number of alumni. We are thrilled with the response to this year's homecoming invitation. Many of our alumni have traveled a great distance to be here this weekend. For some, this is literally the first visit home since they graduated 40, 50 years ago. And though the campus is a little different, our mission is the same. We're still about changing the world, one graduate at a time. While we've grown a bit, our hearts still beat for the blue and white. We remain committed to providing students with a transformative education, regardless of their personal wealth or lack thereof. We believe that education can level and lift up, and so we're very happy to have you home again. We have a very special group that is celebrating their 50th anniversary of graduation. They're seating together, they're wearing special tams. In a sense, this should feel normal to all of you, right? Sitting together, wearing a funny hat. It used to be like that, it was certainly like that when you arrived on campus in 1961. Freshmen were required to wear beanies and had to abide by dormitory hours and other restrictions. A dean of men and a dean of women helped to ensure that the students were guided in the development of character and scholarship. I'm particularly glad to note that none of these people, none of these oh so wonderful 50th reunion folks shoved anybody down that old fire escape system, right? That tube that used to hang off Wilkinson. Believe it or not, it was still here when I came. I could very quickly envision all that I would have done, and so we took it down. When they came in 1961, this class also helped to push the undergraduate enrollment at Aurora College over the 1,000 student mark. They came from far and wide, California, Washington, Florida, Maine, often from small towns. Many had literally not traveled far from home till they got on a train or caught a bus and came to this campus. Many were members of the Advent Christian Church, but not all. We have enjoyed this 50th reunion class incredibly the last few years as they were preparing for today. And I want to share with you some of the things they've told us. We asked them to reflect upon their own experiences as students. This is what they said. My experience allowed me to see the value in people, no matter their beliefs or background. While at AC, I discovered that what mattered to me were the very values held by my parents. In order to discover this, I needed to experience independence and make my own decisions, which I was able to do as a student. I remember well the moment I realized my parents were actually smarter than I thought. My AC experience taught me to work hard and always to do my best in whatever I decided to do. And in fact, many of the members of the class of 1965 not only went to class, but held down jobs in the community to help pay their own way. Another person said, "From my Aurora College experience, I learned values and character that I passed on to my fellow soldiers when I was sent to Vietnam in 1966 as a unit commander." Another, "My college years were a laboratory where I figured some things out. One of the things I figured out was how to study." Another graduate said, "My experience did not train me for a job, but it enabled me to experiment with ideas and ways to learn instead." And finally, "My Aurora experience perpetuated and cultivated the integration of faith, learning, and living." And don't we wish, faculty colleagues, much of the same for our students today? Much has changed, but much is constant. Some of these reflections might be stirring in the minds of other alumni here today when they remember the faculty and staff who guided and mentored them. This is what our alumni remember and talk about: people, individuals, both in and out of the classroom, who set an example, instilled confidence, taught a particularly challenging course, guided them as they discovered what mattered. Ours is a noble calling, indeed, for education both transforms lives and lasts a lifetime. So we are grateful to you, alumni, for coming home and for reminding us again that together we are part of a timeless mission. In coming home, you honor us, and we honor your return with gratitude and thanksgiving. And I want to thank you for the faith that you had over the years. We work hard every day to live up to the confidence that you've expressed in AU, and we're grateful for that too. Each year, each fall, earlier some falls, the university community is renewed again. A good friend of mine, I think it's actually Dr. Eagle, sometimes refers to educators as having two New Year's Eves. And indeed we do. We start again on the calendar in January, but in our hearts in late August or September. As our students arrive, grow, and then graduate, some of us just stay here. The faculty and the staff remain constant. And throughout its history, AU has benefited from the extraordinary dedication and leadership of the women and men who make this place their work home. One of the hallmarks of this Founders Convocation is the recognition of employees who perpetuate a rich tradition of service all the way back to Mendota. So today we recognize those employees, and I call upon Senior Vice President for Student Life, Dr. Laura DeLacy, to introduce, she might interview them later, to introduce colleagues for recognition.
Today, we recognize employees with 5 or more years of service to Aurora University. Following the conclusion of the convocation, you may all pick up your awards at the reception desk. AU depends upon the good work of talented part-time faculty to fulfill its mission. Please join me with a round of applause in recognizing the service of the adjunct faculty listed in this afternoon's program. The following full-time faculty and staff have served the AU community for 5 years. Please stand as I read your names and continue standing until all names are read, and then we can all applaud your achievements. Julie Adams, Pat Aloisio, Lisa Behrman, Patricia Butler, Tasha Campbell, Debbie Enlow, Lisa Fredenberg, Julie Garcia, Maureen Green, Meredith Harvey, Deborah Kennedy, Mary Jo Leggett, Sandra Marchetti, Bridget McDermott, Steve McFarland, Susie McGarry, Megan Neer, Regina Ron, Jesse Skirty, Yvette Somerville, Mark Spangler, and Chris Wells. Congratulations. Next, we will recognize members of the faculty and staff with 10 years of service. Again, please stand and remain standing until all the names are read, and hold your applause. Sherry Eagle, Renee Franiuk, Nancy Young, Brittany Kulo, Bryn Landwehr, Joe Lance, Lori Lusk, Carrie Milne-Zellman, Jeremy Pittenger, Ken Plug, Mary Tarling, Tammy Wiltermood, and Mark Zellman. Congratulations. Employees with 15 years of service to Aurora University include the following. Again, please stand and remain standing until all the names are read. Sarah Elliott, Martin Forward, Deborah LeBlanc, Ted Pargy, and Jim Varney. Congratulations. One individual has served the AU community for 20 years. Please stand as I call your name. Amy Gray. Now I invite those colleagues with 25 years of service to come to the stage for recognition when I call your name. Lori Alozio. Linda Gebhard is on vacation, so is not here today, but congratulations to Linda. Heather Granert. Linda McCall is also not here today as she's out of town, but congratulations to Linda. Lisa Wisniewicz. Now I invite a colleague with 30 years of service to come to the stage. Maggie Scherer. Congratulations again. to all of the faculty and staff members who have served Aurora University through the years. Now, will all who are able please stand as the University Chorale leads us in singing the Alma Mater. Then please remain standing for the benediction. At the conclusion of the prayer, I invite the audience to be seated until the academic recessional is complete.
Now may the grace of God, the love of God, and the fellowship of God be with us all. Amen.